Our Lady of Lourdes, February 11th, 1858. That cold day, Bernadette Soubirous, her sister Toinette, and their friend Jean Abadi were walking, collecting firewood near the river. Bernadette's sister and friend crossed to find wood on the other side, but Bernadette, who often had health problems and was concerned about treading over the very cold water, decided to stay near the grotto to wait for them. So her sister and friend left. She was over by herself, and she hears this rustling sound of wind, but she looks up and the trees aren't moving. Then again, she hears this sound and she looks up and she sees standing up there in the opening in the rock, a lady in white. Thinking she was seeing something that wasn't there, she began to rub her eyes, thinking it was an illusion. And she looked again, and there was this beautiful lady. She was paralyzed with fear. The Blessed Mother, Bernadette didn't know who it was yet at this time. The lady started to pray her rosary. Bernadette reached in her pocket, took out her rosary, and was so afraid she couldn't even make the sign of the cross. But the lady, holding her rosary, made the sign of the cross herself. And so Bernadette then had the confidence to be able to make the sign of the cross. She knelt down and prayed her rosary in union with the beautiful lady. After praying her rosary, the lady disappeared. Bernadette said that the lady had the appearance of a young girl, maybe 16 or 17. She wore a white dress tied at the waist by a long blue ribbon. She wore a long white veil that covered her hair. Her feet were bare, covered by the folds of her dress, except for the tips of her feet, which on both was a yellow rose. On her right arm, she carried a rosary of white beads and a golden chain. So after this first experience with this lady, the girls saw Bernadette kneeling down there on the other side. And when they came back over to her side of the river, they teased her. But it didn't seem to bother Bernadette much. As they walked home, Bernadette asked them if they had seen anything unusual, but they hadn't. Bernadette asked them if they could keep a secret. And the young girls, in their curiosity, in typical fashion for young girls, said that they could, and later they didn't. She said that she saw a beautiful lady and described the lady that she had seen. The girl said she was silly, and when they got home, they shared with their parents and family Bernadette's secret. At first, her parents, hearing this, were a little troubled and did not grant her request to go there the next day. But eventually, at the prodding of the children and the neighbors, her parents relented. I'm sorry, not the next day, but she would next go back on Sunday, the 14th. Sunday, the 14th of February was the second apparition. Bernadette went with some of the other children to the grotto. When the lady appeared, Bernadette, in this case, thinking that maybe this vision was not of God, she splashed holy water on the lady, and the lady's face got brighter and she smiled. As with each consecutive apparition, the size of the crowd would grow. Thursday, the 18th, she returns to the grotto, and some of the townspeople told Bernadette this could potentially be a soul from purgatory who is in need of something, and she should ask her what she needs. She should give her a paper and a pen, and maybe the soul from purgatory could write down what she was in need of. So On Thursday, the 18th, the Blessed Virgin appears, the lady appears. Bernadette offers to the lady a paper and a pen, and the lady laughs and said that there is no need for her to write anything down. Will you do me the kindness to come here every day for 15 days? Bernadette said that she would come there every day for 15 days, to which the Blessed Virgin replies, I cannot promise you happiness in this world, but in the next. So on Friday the 19th, the fourth apparition, Bernadette, her mother and her mother's sister go to the grotto with blessed candles. Bernadette's mother was so moved at the sight of her daughter's countenance. When the Blessed Virgin appeared, Bernadette went into almost like a trance, and her face became so focused but sweet. And Bernadette's mother was afraid that God was going to take her from her in this moment, and she cried out, "Oh God, do not take her from me." Saturday the 20th, the fifth apparition. On Sunday, thousands were at the grotto waiting. Bernadette said that at one point, the lady ceased looking at me and looked above me and far away, and the lady was sad. And so Bernadette asked her why she was sad, and the Virgin's response was only, pray for sinners. On the sixth apparition, Sunday the 21st, the authorities summoned Bernadette's father, Francois, to forbid Bernadette from visiting the grotto. They were concerned that this was going to cause too much of a disturbance in the town. So Bernadette's father forbade her to go to the grotto, and Bernadette, in typical fashion, obeyed. She was always a humble and an obedient child. The next day, although sad, at her father's request, she went to school the next morning, and at the time for their lunch, they came back home for their lunch in this town. She returned home for lunch, and again, she was sad. After lunch, she began to walk back to school at a spot not far from the school and witnessed by local police. Her feet literally stopped moving. They reported that she lifted up her feet as if to go forward to school, but something, it appeared, was preventing her from doing so. Something unseen was preventing her from moving any farther. She returned to the grotto, but the lady did not appear. Her parents, listening to all this, knowing her to be the kind of obedient child she always was, withdrew their prohibition, allowing her to return to the grotto. The seventh apparition, Tuesday, February the 23rd, was a secret for Bernadette alone. The eighth apparition, Wednesday the 24th, the Blessed Virgin said in a very intense way to the young child, penance, penance, penance. Pray to God for sinners. Kiss the ground in penance. Here again, as at La Salette, we see in the Blessed Virgin's mind this understanding of how sin hurts God and offends God's majesty. And she is trying to impress upon Bernadette and all who would hear of this apparition this fear of sin. Sin brings with it a consequence much worse than physical death. But if you think about the way we see things, how fearful we get when someone becomes ill. And that's right, of course. We love our family, we love our children, we love our friends and neighbors. So when someone is suffering with some kind of a physical illness, of course, we become concerned and fearful. But our fear of sin against God's sovereign majesty should cause us even more fear. This is what the Blessed Virgin is trying to impress upon Melanie and Maximin. This is what she's trying to impress upon Bernadette and what she's trying to impress upon you and upon me. Penance, penance, penance. Pray to God for sinners and kiss the ground in penance. The 9th apparition, Thursday, February 25th. 300 people were present. Bernadette is instructed to kneel down and dig in the dirt and drink spring water. She tried the first time, but there was nothing but mud. She tried a second time to drink and a third time to drink, but there was no water. But in obedience to the Blessed Virgin, on the 4th try, water flowed from the ground and she was able to drink it. On Saturday, the February the 27th of February, the 10th apparition, 800 people were present. The Blessed Virgin, the Lady, was silent, and Bernadette again drank from the spring. The 11th apparition, Sunday the 28th, over 1,000 people were present. Bernadette prayed and kissed the ground in penance. On the 12th apparition, Monday, March 14th, 1,500 people were present. And there finally was a priest who was present. And Catherine Latapie visits the grotto and plunges her dislocated arm into the spring water, and her arm on Monday, March 14th, the date of the 12th apparition, her arm and hand regained their movement. Tuesday, March 2nd, the 13th apparition, the Blessed Virgin tells Saint Bernadette to go and tell the priest to build a chapel here. And so Bernadette goes to the priest and asks that a chapel be built. And the priest doesn't believe her. The priest, when she goes to the priest's house and he is outside praying his breviary, and Bernadette sees him and introduces herself to him. And he had heard of all of this. And he said, well, if this lady wants to build a chapel, is she going to give us the money to build the chapel? And Bernadette was kind of discouraged at the priest's response. And the priest said, who is this lady? And Bernadette said she didn't know. But she said, but she's from heaven. And the priest said, well, how do you know that she's from heaven? And Bernadette said, because she is so beautiful. She is how I would think people from heaven would look. So on the 14th apparition, Wednesday, March 3rd, 3,000 people. Bernadette, now instructed by the priest to ask the lady's name, asks the Blessed Virgin her name, and the lady only smiled. Thursday, March 4th, 8,000 people were present, and Bernadette goes again and asks the lady her name, and the lady was silent. Thursday, March 25th, the 16th apparition, Bernadette again asks the lady her name, and she says to this young girl with a little bit of a learning disability who was in remedial catechism, who did not know theological terms or theological language, did not know that there was this dispute going on in the life of the church among the bishops and the hierarchy. There was a conflict going on in the life of the universal church at this time regarding the pronouncement of the dogma of the Immaculate Conception. Bernadette, who certainly would not have read theological journals, who had a hard time understanding her catechism lessons, asks the Blessed Virgin her name. And the Blessed Virgin says, I am the Immaculate Conception. So Bernadette, repeating this over and over again in her mind, goes to the priest's house not wanting to forget this complex phrase that the Blessed Virgin spoke to her, she goes and the priest opens the door and she blurts out, "I am the Immaculate Conception." That's what the lady told me when I asked her her name. Now he believed her. Now the priest knew that could have only come from the glorious and immaculate Mother of God, and he became her strongest advocate. The last vision took place on July 16th, 1858, the feast of Our Lady of Mount Carmel. The authorities had ordered the grotto to be closed to the public. It was boarded over. The Blessed Virgin appeared to Bernadette, and the last time that she would see her there for 15 minutes. Saint Bernadette entered. There's a picture of the grotto at Lourdes with this tower of candles that's always there. You can see there the altar where Mass is said, and the statue of the Blessed Virgin where Our Lady appeared to her. There's the chapel that, with the priest's help, was built in obedience to Our Lady's request. Very beautiful. After Vatican City, the shrine at Lourdes is the most populated, the largest number of pilgrims after Vatican City go to Lourdes. There's the spring. They have a piece of glass over where the water flows. It's if you're looking at the altar right there, it's over to the left side of the altar, down on the ground. And in Nevers, in the convent chapel at Nevers, is Saint Bernadette's incorrupt body. She, like Saint Catherine Labouré, is also incorrupt. In the 70s or 80s, when long after the nuns of this convent had been enlightened and shed their habits and wear suits and such, the Bernadette's habit had deteriorated, and the nuns wanted her to be dressed like they're dressed. And to the horror of some of the nuns of the community, they went to the Holy See, and the Vatican ordered that her habit would be replaced to match the habit that she would have worn in her lifetime in the convent. So you can go to the convent at Nevers and see Saint Bernadette lying there as if she's asleep. I took a group of on this pilgrimage I was telling you about. When we went to the Miraculous Medal Chapel, our first stop was at Lourdes, and we had a lot of problems with the airline and luggage. And as many times as I told my parishioners preparing to leave, don't put your medications in your checked luggage. Don't put every meeting, don't put your medication in your checked luggage. You want to put that in your carry-on. So we land, our luggage isn't there. And sure enough, Grace Munitza, sweet lady from Sewickley, she comes up to me and she says, "Father, my medication for my glaucoma is in my suitcase." So I said, "Well, Grace, we're going to the spring. You're just going to have to put your eye into the spring water." So we go, and she bathes her eyes in the spring water. And so anyway, I was on the phone with the airline. Delta was blaming Air France. Air France was blaming Delta. And so I burned through, I don't know how many prepaid cards on this stupid payphone in Lourdes, fighting with these airlines. And it did nothing. except made me so frustrated. So finally, at that night, after I got everyone tucked in, I went back to the grotto for some peace and quiet. And there was like a janitor there sweeping it was just he and I was just there praying my rosary, peace, peace, beautiful, blessed peace. And closed my eyes and finished my rosary and opened up my eyes, and the janitor was gone. And so I thought for a little while, well, I'm going to go back to my hotel. So I get up, go out to the gate where I had come in. It's locked. So there's a guardhouse there. So I just tapped on the window. No one came. So I'm thinking, how am I going to get out of here? So there was another gate. If you walk around way up on the other side, there's another gate. So I thought, well, maybe they leave that one open for people who stay here later than we should. So I went up, locked. So I go back to the garden. I'm like, Blessed Mother, how am I going to get out of here? So I went over to the gate that I had come in, and the way that the rocks are configured there by the gate, I thought, I bet I could climb out of here. So, dumb American priest, I climb up the rocks and get out. And as I'm walking back to my hotel, this horrible, horrible feeling came over me. Oh, like the Blessed Mother brought me here. I had this beautiful time that some people in their lifetimes will never see. And it was just me and the Blessed Mother at the grotto, and I escaped. I took some Lourdes water with me back home, and I had this thing called TMJ for a long time, and I couldn't eat bagels. I couldn't eat Italian bread. My jaw would click, and it would cause me some discomfort. And so one time I was eating nacho chips or something, and my jaw started to click, and I thought, I'm going to put some of this Lourdes water on my. So I did, splash some of the Lourdes water on my face, and went to bed. Next morning, wake up, yawn, open my mouth for my yawn, and when my mouth came back closed, it didn't click. For the first time that I could ever remember, my jaw didn't click when my mouth had to close after the yawn. So she healed me of that TMJ. She did, the Blessed Virgin of Lourdes. Okay, Our Lady of Fatima. The Blessed Virgin appears to 3 children, Lucia Santos, who's 10, Francisco Marto, who's 9, and Jacinta Marto, who's 7. It was World War I. Pope Benedict XV made an appeal to the Blessed Virgin to intercede for peace in the world. In May 1916, the children were given a preparatory apparition from the guardian angel of Portugal. He appeared to them 3 times, asking the children to pray for peace and to make sacrifices as a way of drawing down blessings of peace on their beloved country. And the guardian angel of Portugal taught them this prayer. My God, I believe, I adore, I hope, and I love thee. I ask pardon for those who do not believe, do not adore, do not hope, and do not love thee. And he instructed them to pray this prayer 3 times. Pray in this way, he said. The hearts of Jesus and Mary are ready to listen to you. So May 13th, 1917, the 3 children took their flocks to the Cova da Iria, which in Portugal means the Cove of Peace. And as they always did, they ate their lunch and prayed their rosary. You can see these are devout children. If they're going unsupervised on their daily chores with their sheep, and they're stopping to pray the rosary. You can see the kind of hearts that have been formed in these children. A lady clothed in white, brighter than the sun, radiating a light more clear and intense than a crystal cup filled with sparkling water lit by burning sunlight. Do not be afraid, she said. I will not harm you. I come from heaven. I have come to ask you to come here for 6 months on the 13th day of the month at this same hour. Later, I shall say who I am and what I desire. Lucia asked if the 3 of them would go to heaven. Yes, the lady said, you and Jacinta would go to heaven, and Francisco, after he says many rosaries. Are you willing to offer yourselves to God and bear all the sufferings he will send you as an act of reparation for the conversion of sinners? Here again, with Guadalupe, with the miraculous medal, with Lourdes, with La Salette. Here again at Fatima, we see on the part of the Blessed Virgin this understanding of how serious sin is and how sin needs to be prayed against, and reparation needs to be made. Sacrifices need to be made against sin. You are going to have much to suffer, but the grace of God will be your comfort. Say the rosary every day to bring peace to the world and the end of the war. June 13th, 1917, at the Cova de Iria, the children see a flash of light followed immediately by the apparition. The lady spoke to Lucia. I want you to come on the 13th of next month to pray the rosary every day and to learn to read. Later, I will tell you what I want. Lucia asked Mary to take them to heaven. And she responded, I will take Jacinta and Francisco shortly, but you will stay here for some time to come. Jesus wants to use you to make me known and loved. He wishes to establish devotion to my Immaculate Heart throughout the world. I promise salvation to whoever embraces it. These souls will be dear to God, like flowers put by me to adorn his throne. So the Blessed Virgin wants us to have devotion to her Immaculate Heart, and I'll talk in just a bit about what that means. July 13th, 1917. The children are at the Cova. Again, the beautiful lady appears over the small oak tree. She says, I want you to come here on the 13th of next month and continue to pray the rosary every day in honor of Our Lady of the Rosary in order to obtain peace for the world and the end of the war, because only she can help you. Continue to come here every month. In October, I will tell you who I am and what I want, and I will perform a miracle for all to see so that all will believe. Sacrifice yourselves for sinners and say many times, Oh Jesus, it is for love of you, for the conversion of sinners, and in reparation for the sins committed against the Immaculate Heart of Mary. As she spoke these words, she opened her hands, and rays of light from her hands penetrated the earth, revealing to the children a terrifying vision of hell, full of demons, full of lost souls. After she closed the opening and the vision of hell ended, she said to the children, you have seen hell, where the souls of poor sinners go. To save them, God wishes to establish in the world devotion to my Immaculate Heart. If what I say to you is done, many souls will be saved and there will be peace. The war is going to end, but if people do not cease offending God, a worse one will break out during the pontificate of Pius XI. When you see a night illumined by an unknown light, know that this is the great sign given you by God, that he is about to punish the world for its crimes by means of war, famine, and persecutions of the church and persecutions of the Holy Father. To prevent this, I shall come to ask for the consecration of Russia to my Immaculate Heart and communion of reparation on the first Saturdays. If my requests are heeded, Russia will be converted and there will be peace. If not, she will spread her errors throughout the world causing wars and persecutions of the church. The good will be martyred. The Holy Father will have much to suffer. Various nations will be annihilated. In the end, my Immaculate Heart will triumph. So the Blessed Virgin is asking for the consecration of Russia to her Immaculate Heart. Why? Because the Blessed Virgin and heaven understand Russia to be the source of communism and the evils of communism. And this is antithetical to the life and liberty of the church. The prediction of the October miracle got the attention of the press, and tens of thousands came to the Cova despite the terrible storms that had just taken place. The three children arrive at around noon, and there is a flash of light, and Mary appears before them. Lucia asked what she wanted. She says, I want to tell you that a chapel is to be built here in my honor. I am the Lady of the Rosary. Continue to pray the Rosary every day. Do not offend the Lord our God anymore, because he is already so much offended. Then, opening her hands, light from her hands went toward the sun, and the tens of thousands of people gathered, witnessed the miracle that she predicted. On this day, it's reported on by the secular press of that time. The sun danced, it swirled around. The tens of thousands saw this. The sun danced, it swirled around the sky, coming down at times even close to the earth, dancing and spinning off rays of color to the amazement of all. The earth was dried. The clothing of those who had just walked through these storms was dried and clean. Lucia sees something more. Our Lady disappeared at this point, and she says, we saw Saint Joseph now with the child Jesus. And again, Our Lady came in white with a blue mantle. She stood beside the sun. Saint Joseph and Jesus blessed the world with the sign of the cross. Then this vision disappeared, and next I saw our Lord and Our Lady of Sorrows. Our Lord, in the same way that Saint Joseph had done, blessed the world. This apparition vanished, and now I see Our Lady dressed in the brown habit of Our Lady of Mount Carmel. Our Lady wants us to observe the 5 first Saturdays. This is key to understanding the apparitions at Fatima. Our Lady wants us to make reparation against sins committed against the Immaculate Heart of Mary in a very particular way. And she gave Lucia specific instructions. She wants us to come to Mass and to receive Holy Communion on 5 consecutive first Saturdays. She wants us to, when we receive our Holy Communion, to have about us the intention that this communion is a communion of reparation to the Immaculate Heart of Mary for the sins that are committed to offend God and to commit and offend the Immaculate Heart of Mary. She wants us to pray the Rosary every day, but for 5 consecutive first Saturdays for reparation against sins of the Immaculate Heart of Mary, and to spend 15 minutes in a period of meditation on one of the mysteries of the Rosary. So, and go to the Sacrament of Penance. So the Sacrament of Penance, which can be done either on the first Saturday of the month or on a day very close to it. Sacrament of Penance, pray the Rosary for reparation to the Immaculate Heart of Mary, a period of about 15 minutes of meditating on one of the mysteries of the Rosary, and receive Holy Communion, a communion of reparation against the sins against the Immaculate Heart of Mary. This is the 5 first Saturdays devotion. And we in this parish are going to make a concerted effort to begin this as a parish community starting next month on the first Saturday of June. And so our first Saturday's devotion that we'll make as a parish will conclude nicely in October, the month of the Rosary. The evils that our Blessed Virgin warns of at Fatima and La Salette are evils of our own times. Surely you can look around and see that we're in a bad way. Just the sin of abortion alone rivals the sin of the Aztecs at Guadalupe. They were doing it out of a perverse sense that this was appeasing some god. We do it in this country out of convenience. This is the shrine at Fatima. This is the miracle of the sun. And these photos were in the newspapers of Portugal back at this time, October 13th, 1917. And here are, this is a shot of the crowd looking up to see the miracle of the sun. Skeptics, reporters who saw this, their minds and hearts were changed to believe the shepherd children. Our Lady of Akita. In 1973, Sister Agnes Sasagawa, who left Buddhism and was baptized and entered the Catholic Church, she entered consecrated life with the Handmaids of the Holy Eucharist. She was 42 years old and totally deaf. Only 1 month after her entrance on June 12th, 1973, a brilliant light emanated from the tabernacle in the convent of the sisters. This happened several times, and the light was accompanied by smoke, a fragrant smoke, which hung around the altar and the tabernacle. During one of these illuminations, Sister Agnes saw a multitude of beings like angels who surrounded the altar in adoration before the host in the monstrance. Bishop Ito, who was spending a week at the convent to lead the sisters, this is Sister Agnes, in devotion, as well as Father Taiji, I don't know how, Yasuda, a priest confessor to the sisters. They were witnesses to some of these events. Sister Agnes was blessed to be able also to see her guardian angel. She described him as having a round face with a sweet expression, covered with a shining whiteness like snow. June 28th, 1973, a cross-shaped wound appeared on the palm of Sister Agnes' left hand. It bled profusely and caused her much pain. Inside the chapel is this 3-foot statue of the Blessed Virgin made from the Judea tree. The Blessed Virgin is standing in front of the cross, as you can see here, her arms at her side. Her stance here reminds me of her stance in the Vision of the Miraculous Medal. Beneath her feet, just as on the Miraculous Medal, is a globe representing the world. On July 6, 1973, Sister Agnes approached the statue, and she says, "I suddenly felt that the statue came to life and was about to speak to me. The statue was bathed in brilliant light. At the same moment, a voice of indescribable beauty struck my totally deaf ears. Our Lady said, 'Your deafness will be healed.' Our Lady then recited with Sister Agnes the community prayer composed by Bishop Ito. And in this line, remember, these are sisters devoted to honoring the Eucharist. When Sister Agnes and the Blessed Virgin got to the line in the prayer where she says, Jesus present in the Holy Eucharist, the Blessed Virgin stopped her and said, from now on, say Jesus truly present in the Holy Eucharist. Before disappearing, Our Lady asked Sister Agnes to pray very much for the Pope, bishops, and priests. The next morning, the sisters entered the chapel and found blood on the right hand of the statue and a small opening in the middle from which the blood flowed. The wound would open and bleed on Fridays in 1973, as did the wound on the left hand of Sister Agnes. One of the sisters writes in her report, "It seemed to be truly cut into flesh. The edge of the cross had the cross where the blood came out of the statue's hands. The blood came and created kind of a cross, I think, in the hand of the statue. And this sister writes, the edge of the cross had the appearance of human flesh. I said to myself at that moment that the wound was real. The wound in Sister Agnes' hand appeared on Thursday, June 28th, and it disappeared on Friday, July 27th, without leaving a trace. The second message of Our Lady came on August the 3rd, 1973. So this was just a week or so after the wound in Sister Agnes' hand disappeared. This was August 3rd, 1973. The Heavenly Father is preparing to inflict a great chastisement on all mankind. I have prevented the coming of calamities by offering him the sufferings of the Son on the cross, his precious blood and beloved souls who console him, forming a cohort of victim souls. Prayer, penance, and courageous sacrifices can soften the Father's anger. Know that you must be fastened to the cross with 3 nails: poverty, chastity, and obedience. Of the 3, obedience is the foundation. So I know it's strange to our ears to hear about the Father being angry, because God is perfection. God is not a mortal. God the Father does not have human emotions. Yet, we can see even in the Old Testament, when God wanted to bring some kind of a healing or a chastisement, we can see, like for instance, with Jonah, and also whenever they put themselves in purple and sat in ashes in the Old Testament, we can see that there's something about God that kind of hints at a kind of a human emotion of anger. And also remember, God's anger and these chastisements are not to like get us. These chastisements are to heal us. When God chastises us, he heals us and teaches us and wants to change us to not offend him anymore and to be true to who he created us to be. And it's interesting, Our Lady says to Sister Agnes that obedience is the most important of the 3 nails. Obedience is the foundation. When you think that the original sin was a sin of disobedience, and when you think that when after Adam created the sin of disobedience, Christ, the new Adam, heals it and redeems it by a perfect act of obedience, it makes sense when the Blessed Virgin says to Sister Agnes that of these 3 nails, obedience is the foundation. When Sister Agnes was professed, she professed and promised these 3 vows. Although Sister Agnes' wound disappeared, the wound on the hand of the statue remained until September the 29th. When the community gathered for Vespers on September the 29th, 1973, the whole community saw a brilliant light coming from the statue. Almost immediately, the entire body of the statue became covered with a moisture resembling perspiration. Toward the end of May 1974, something else occurred. While the statue's garment and hair retained the look of natural wood, the face, hands, and feet became distinguished by a dark reddish brown tint. 8 years later, the sculptor who had made the statue for the sisters visits the convent, and he's amazed that the visible parts of Our Lady's body, not covered by her clothing, hands, face, feet, had changed their color, and the sculptor said that her face had changed its expression. January 4th, 1975, the community and Father Yasuda witnessed the statue weep 3 times that day. The tears collected on the inside edge of the eyes, flowed down the cheeks, collected where the garment touches her neck, rolled down the folds of her garment, and fell upon the globe under her feet. Bishop Ito arranged for Professor Sagesaka, a non-Christian specialist in forensic medicine, to make a rigorous scientific examination of the 3 fluids, the blood and the tears and the perspiration. and his tests revealed the matter adhering to the gauze is human blood. The tears are human tears, and the perspiration is human perspiration. And these three biological fluids coming from this statue each have a different blood type, which is interesting because normally the fluids coming from the same person would all be of B or what have you. Toward the end of May 1974, something else occurred. While the statue's garment and hair, October 13th, 1973, the anniversary of the miracle of the sun at Fatima, Sister Agnes heard Our Lady's voice. The work of the devil will infiltrate even into the church in such a way that one will see cardinals opposing cardinals, bishops against other bishops. The priests who venerate me will be scorned and opposed by their confreres. Churches and altars will be sacked. The church will be full of those who accept compromises, and the devil will press many priests and consecrated souls to leave the service of the Lord. The demon would be especially implacable against souls consecrated to God. The thought of the loss of so many souls is the cause of my sadness. Our Lady said to Sister Agnes, if people do not repent and better themselves, the Father will inflict a terrible punishment on all of humanity. The only arms which will remain for you will be the rosary and the sign left by my son. Each day, recite the prayers of the rosary. Pray for the Pope, the bishops, and the priests. So that is these beautiful apparitions. Here's the chapel at Akita. Another quote by Saint Louis-Marie de Montfort. God then wishes to reveal and make known Mary, the masterpiece of his hands, in these latter times, as she is the dawn which precedes and reveals the Son of Justice, who is Jesus Christ. She must be seen and recognized in order that Jesus Christ may also be. In all these apparitions, you see the tender love of a mother who loves us so much that she wants us to wake up to the reality and the consequences of sin. She wants us to become totally dedicated to her. And she wants us with her to share in that ultimate triumph of her Immaculate Heart. And the Blessed Virgin wants you and me to know that we should have no part in sin. We should have no part in it. And we should make it our goal to look seriously at our lives and where there is serious sin. And with her help, the graces remember those jewels hanging down from the miraculous metal that didn't touch, those are the graces that people do not ask for. We should ask for these graces to recognize what still in us is displeasing to our God, what still in us is displeasing to Our Lady, and with her help uproot it so that we can be totally for God, live totally for God like she wants us to. And I think with her help, graces will abound, and we will see progress in ourselves to become more pleasing to her and more pleasing to God. She is our mother. God made her the mother of us all, and she stands in eternity now as the mother of graces, as the advocate and mediatrix of all graces. All graces flow when she received the incarnate word and gave birth out of her virginal womb to the incarnate word, Jesus Christ the Lord. There, God established an eternal pattern of the graces would come to us through her. And so we need to implore her help and to pray for our world and offer sacrifices for sinners.